And welcome YouTube viewers, welcome friends, foes, and neutrals to the Daily Space Weather. We are looking at the closest star here. This is a interesting composite view as it shows two different species of ionized iron and one of ionized helium. So 304 angstroms on here, that's the ionized helium. 211 and 171 are the ionized iron. The 211 is green, the 171 is blue, and the 304 is the regular color that you're used to, red. So we've got coronal holes, we've got a high-speed coronal hole wind stream, we've got an increase in the radial flux to now 162 solar flux units, a massive number of sunspots, and a very high likelihood of solar flares. We'll get into all kinds of data. First, let's take a look at Earth's geospace, out to about 12 Earth diameters. So that's the last 4 hours of magnetohydrodynamic pressure, modeled in nanopascals. Again, we've got a high-speed coronal hole wind stream striking at the moment, pushing 600 kilometers per second. And we'll let this play through because it's refreshed. We want to get it onto your screen as promptly as possible, with a whole bunch of other facts coming about coronal holes, the magnetosphere, and more. So that's Earth's magnetic moment from space. Here's Earth's magnetic moment from the ground. This is modeled in nanotesla magnetic flux density. Geospace delta B. Changes to Earth's B field are what are modeled here. You can see some significant perturbations there. We can expect to see some auroral imagery both on our Twitter feed and on our Instagram page. You can find links to all that stuff at smashomash.com, as well as to Patreon, a permanent invite to our Discord chat, and so on. Planetary K-index at 3. That's a measurement of global geomagnetism. If you're new to the channel, press like, subscribe, and notify. Next, the real-time solar wind. Again, you can see this uptick here over the past about 6 hours. The solar wind velocity went from about 477 all the way up to nearly 600 kilometers per second. Right now, reported at 596 kilometers per second there from the Discover spacecraft located at Lagrange Point 1, about 1 million miles away from Earth toward the Sun. Current solar wind density just under 12 protons per cubic centimeter. Let's continue on to the magnetic data section of the video. There are your GOES magnetometers over the past 3 days. And don't be surprised to see additional spikiness in the GOES magnetometer, as there is some high-speed plasma striking, as we just cited. Next, we'll look at the heliospheric current sheet. Earth remains in a North Pole current sheet, shown here in green. South Pole current sheet shown there in red, primarily on the opposite side of the Sun. Approaching stereo A. Here's the line of sight view, and looking at the solar magnetogram, there are lots of sunspots and magnetically organized regions. Let's move to coronal holes. We've got some South Pole-oriented coronal holes rotating in here in the east. They are transequatorial. That is a sign of the solar polar field reversal process going on. As you can see, North Pole coronal holes rotating down here toward the south, as solar cycle 25's solar polar field reversal is occurring right there before your eyes. So here's a view of the coronal hole situation in 193 angstroms, another ionized iron species. Fairly well-defined coronal holes. And for you new viewers, coronal holes are essentially low-pressure zones. And low-pressure zones on stars are so low that they blast material, diffuse gas, out into the greater solar system at very high speeds. Again, that's what we're seeing now, nearly 600 kilometer per second solar wind speed. Moving on to sunspots, there are lots. You can see 10 named groups showing up there on the solar flare probability monitor. The likelihood of major flares from 3007 rise as it approaches the limb. We've got all kinds of activity up here in the northeast. Jason Voorhees' sunspot 3011 and more up there. So lots going on here. Likelihood of major solar flares remains very high. Let's take a look at that visually. Here's the 1700 angstroms wavelength. Let's blow that up to 75%. There we go. So these sunspots have largely been stable over the past 24 hours. This area here has grown a little bit. You can see a little bit of umbral migration happening there near my mouse pointer right there. A little bit of growth happening up here too. That's sunspot 3014. So a little bit of growth from 3014, a little bit of umbral consolidation. You can see that's grown, the main umbra there. Beta gamma class sunspots galore. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's like 6 beta gamma class sunspot groups. Again, likelihood of major flares very high. Thanks to our followers over on Twitch, twitch.tv/smashamash. By the time you saw this on YouTube, we would have probably already streamed twice to Twitch. It's the primary live streaming source for the Smash News Network, Least Busted Name and News, just because it is such a good platform. The software, it works nearly flawlessly. So don't pole vault the caldera. Our finest days lie ahead, and if you're going through hell, keep going. So don't pole vault the caldera. We don't want to breathe you in. We don't want to see you become part of the lithosphere by ending up apportioned into a lava lake. I reiterate, our finest days lie ahead. So help us out, help smash staff out with a raise by picking up some Do Not Pole Vault the Caldera merch. It's our number 3 bestseller, I think, unless there's been a shakeup since I last looked. If you want to support the channel via monthly subscription services, consider becoming a member of the Smash team. If you're at gold or silver, you will see our daily GDAX reports, our disaster reports. The gold annual paid-up subscription is the best value at smashamash.com/smashteam. Thanks to everybody who supports us that way. You can find all kinds of links on smashamash.com, so welcome to the Neo Renaissance. You can find links to the YouTube channel, the Smasho merch, the Smash team, a permanent invite to our Discord chat, the Instagram page, locals, Facebook, Patreon, and more. So welcome to the Neo Renaissance, and remember, folks, our finest days lie ahead. The M-class flare we saw yesterday didn't produce any relativistic particles. It happened around 1330. As you can see, the proton flux remains flatlined. There is that M-class flare. Again, it was around 1320. Looks like the peak flux was of that M-class solar flare. It was an M-class, an M2.46. So a significant flare. And let's take a look at that in 131 angstroms. So that came from right near the limb here. You can see right there that rising sunspot group. Once again, an M-class flare close to the limb. And again, likelihood of major flares remains very high. Continuing on to a star chart, I like our viewers to be oriented. This is what's going on above our head in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. If you want to create your own star chart, head to in-the-sky.org, put in your zip code or your city or whatever, and you can create your own star chart. Mine faces the south because I face the south when I make these videos at the moment. Here is your solar system forecast for the next 7 days. This is where planetary objects and so forth are located at the moment. There's where things will be in a week. We'll have a crescent waning by the 24th of May. And we'll close out our daily space weather video with coronagraphs, as we do on the regs. So here's the coronagraphs at Stereo A at Lagrange 5 and the Soho Lasco C3 at Lagrange 1. And there were some coronal mass ejections. They're on the far side of the sun. They'll miss Earth well to the southeast rather. You'll see one coming out toward my arrow here, and located in a similar spot on Stereo A. For your new viewers, the Earth would be off in this direction from the perspective of Stereo A and behind you from the perspective of the Lasco C3. So no additional CMEs headed toward Earth at the moment. Thanks for tuning into the Smash News Network, Least Busted Name and News, and may that solar wind be at your back.